Imagine yourself walking through a violent storm. The wind howls, the rain lashes down like needles, branches break and scatter, and the whole world around you seems to tremble. But amidst the chaos, there is one thing that remains unchanged. You, standing firm like a mountain. You do not resist the storm, nor do you run from it. You simply are, steady, awake, calm. Yet there is one thing we are all searching for. In this ever-shifting life, it is inner stillness, that quiet strength that cannot be shaken. Not everyone is born with that kind of resilience, but anyone can become it. Carl Jung, the master of depth psychology, once said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." True freedom doesn't belong to those who control the world, but to those who are no longer controlled by it. These people possess a quiet power, a steadiness untouched by praise or blame, approval or betrayal. In this article, we will step together into a journey of self-discovery, moving through our inner shadows, and building a deep-rooted inner strength that no external circumstance can shake. It's not an easy path, but if you are brave enough to begin, it will change everything, not just from the outside, but from the very roots within. 1. The external world can only hurt you if you allow it to. Imagine yourself standing in the heart of a storm. The wind is howling, the rain lashes your skin like piercing needles, branches break and fall, and the earth quakes beneath you. Everything around you seems ready to collapse. And yet, in the midst of this chaos, you, like a mountain, remain still and unmoved, not because you do not feel the storm, but because your roots run deep into the earth. Stillness doesn't come from the outside. It begins with inner strength. Nothing external can harm you unless you allow it inside. In today's world, where we constantly face judgment, rejection, suspicious glances, and even hurtful words, it's easy to feel swept away by emotional turmoil. A careless comment can linger with us all day. A cold stare can sting the heart. But the truth is, we are the ones who open the door and let those things enter our minds. The outer world holds no power of its own. It only becomes powerful when we grant it authority. The pain you feel is rarely about the other person. It comes from within, from unexamined beliefs, unhealed wounds, and fears you've never dared to confront. For example, if someone says you're not good enough and that wounds you, it means you've already, deep down, believed that about yourself. They are simply triggering what you already carry. But if you have a strong, grounded belief in your worth, their words are nothing more than noise. They leave no trace. Psychology calls this phenomenon unconscious resonance. What we react strongly to in others is often a mirror of what remains unresolved within ourselves. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. So, your sensitivity is not the world's fault. It is an invitation to look inward. So how can the outside world lose its power to hurt you? The answer lies in shifting from reactor to observer. Imagine you're a viewer sitting in a cinema, watching your life unfold on the screen. When someone hurts you, instead of instantly reacting with anger, insecurity, or withdrawal, pause, take a deep breath, and ask, where is this feeling really coming from within me? By practicing this consistently, you will begin to realize, no one can reach your core unless you let them in. You don't need to fight off every criticism. You simply stop accepting them. One powerful practice is emotional journaling. Whenever you feel affected by someone, write down the event, what just happened, the reaction. What are the specific emotions you're feeling? The root. Is this feeling familiar? When did you feel this in your past? Writing this out helps bring the unconscious into the light. Instead of being ruled by emotions, you begin to observe and choose. You become intentional, no longer tossed about by the storm of the world. Remember, you cannot control others. You cannot stop the world from speaking, judging, or behaving negatively. But you can always control how you respond. When you master your inner world, the outer world is no longer a threat. Judgment becomes meaningless. Rejection is no longer a tragedy. And you, standing like a mountain in the storm, walk through life with a serenity that nothing can shake. This is the beginning of unshakable inner power. It starts with a single realization. No one can hurt you unless you let them. 2. The shadow, the part of you deny, is where your repressed power lies. We call it the shadow, not because it is evil, but because it hides in the darkness of the unconscious. It is the part of you that you don't want to see, that you don't dare to admit, and that you constantly try to conceal. But here lies the paradox. What you avoid is exactly where your deepest and most primal power lives. The shadow is not merely about negativity. It is everything you were taught to suppress from a young age. Your anger, jealousy, desires, vulnerability, and even your boldest dreams, your strongest voice, your confidence, your brilliance, anything that made you feel unlovable when expressed, you tucked away, you locked it in the depths of your unconscious, believing that hiding it would make you safer. But that was only an illusion. These parts do not disappear. They simply hide, waiting for a moment to erupt through negative emotions, messy relationships, or extreme reactions you can't explain. You lose control in anger. You spiral into jealousy. You run away from opportunities. Not because you're broken, but because your shadow has never been seen, understood, or healed. And here is the truth Jung left for humanity. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I repeat the same pattern of failure? Why do the same types of people keep hurting me? Why do I feel stuck and empty, no matter how hard I try? The answer lies in the shadow. What you refuse to face is quietly steering your life. Like a child abandoned in a dark room, your shadow screams to be acknowledged, and the more you avoid it, the louder it disrupts you from within, in sudden waves of anxiety, quiet insecurity despite outer success, or hollowness even in the midst of love. But imagine what would happen if you turned inward, if you entered that dark room and listened to the voice that's been silenced for so long. The miracle is this: once you dare to face your shadow, it no longer remains an enemy, but becomes your guide. It becomes a bridge that leads you back to your original essence. Your shadow doesn't need punishment. It needs understanding. It is the part of you that was once abandoned, in order to be accepted, to survive in a world full of expectations. But now, you are no longer a child begging for love by pleasing everyone. You can choose to return, to embrace the shadow, and say, I see you, I am no longer afraid. Integrating the shadow is not about becoming negative or reckless. It is the bravest act one can do, to accept the fullness of oneself, both the light and the dark. From that point on, you no longer react unconsciously to attacks or judgment from the outside. You know who you are, you recognize what your inner world needs, and you become unshakable, not because you never get hurt, but because hurt no longer controls you. The shadow holds your courage, your intuition, your creativity, and your long-buried compassion. When you bring the light of consciousness into it, you not only heal, you awaken a power within you that you never knew existed. That is the first step to building an unbreakable inner strength. And remember, facing your shadow is not a threat. It is a homecoming, a return to yourself, whole, complete, and no longer need anyone's permission to be fully you. Free. 3 steps to building unshakable inner strength. Inner strength is not about physical toughness. It is the steady state of mind, a deep anchor within you that no storm from the outside can shake. Those with true inner strength are not emotionless. Rather, they observe their emotions without being swept away by them. They don't live in defense mode, nor do they need to fight to prove their worth. They are present, alert, grounded, and quiet enough to hear their own voice amid all the noise. Carl Jung once said, "No one can illuminate their inner light without first walking through their own darkness." To cultivate such sustainable strength, you must practice these 3 essential steps, 3 foundational pillars to build a spiritual anchor that you can always return to, especially when the storms of life arrive. Step 1. Observe without judgment. This is the most fundamental and profound skill. Most of us live in a reactive state. Someone hurts us, we get angry. Someone doesn't acknowledge us, we crumble. An unexpected situation arises, we panic, judge, resist. But here's the truth. Reactions come from unconscious habits. They don't reflect reality, they reflect parts of you that are still unhealed. Instead of reacting, learn to observe. When an emotion arises, pause. Watch it as if you were watching a cloud drifting across the sky. No identification, no resistance, no rush to label it good or bad, or right or wrong. Example, someone criticizes you. Your old reaction might be to defend yourself or shut down. But with observation, you can ask, why does this hurt me? What inner belief is being triggered? The truth is that people don't hurt you, your old wounds respond to them. Once you see this, you begin to unravel the pattern. And when you observe long enough, you stop getting caught in emotional loops. Step 2. Clarify core values and set personal boundaries. Inner strength doesn't come from pleasing others. It comes from knowing what matters most to you and living in alignment with that. This is called your core values. Try writing down 5 values you hold most dear. Perhaps honesty, freedom, peace, creativity, or integrity. Let these values become your internal compass, guiding you to say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. Next, establish your personal boundaries, healthy limits that protect your energy, your time, and your self-respect. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are doors you choose to open when it feels right and close when something harms you. Example, if you need quiet after a long day, don't force yourself to socialize just to be polite. If someone keeps belittling you, be brave enough to say, "It makes me uncomfortable to be spoken to that way." People with inner strength don't compromise on the things that disconnect them from their truth. They live by what they believe in, even if it means walking alone. Step 3. Transform emotions from burden to fuel. No one is immune to negative emotions, but those with inner strength are not consumed by them. They know that emotions are not punishments, they are signals. Every time you feel anger, sadness, or anxiety, treat it like a message from within. Ask, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What need is not being met? One of the best ways to transform emotion is through emotional journaling. Write down what happened, how you felt, and what you learned from it. The moment you write it down, you are no longer drowning in it. You become the observer, and that, in itself, is healing. In addition, try mindfulness meditation or deep breathing exercises. These techniques calm your nervous system and bring you back into balance, so you respond from your center, rather than reacting from chaos. Gradually, you'll begin to see that pain is not your enemy. It's a part of you, learning to be heard. When you practice these 3 steps consistently, observation, core values, and emotional transformation, you stop living like a leaf in the wind. You become the tree, grounded in the storm. No one can take your peace unless you hand it away. And that is true inner strength. Not loud, not performative, but simply, quietly, present within you. You cannot control the wind, but you can learn how to adjust the sails. You cannot stop others from criticizing, misunderstanding, or betraying you, but you can choose not to let it define you. In the end, the deepest form of freedom does not come from changing your circumstances, but from no longer reacting in the same way. You no longer feel the need to resist or defend yourself. Because now, you know who you are, you face the shadows within, and you possess an inner landscape that is untouchable. Remember, the grounded one is not someone without emotions, but someone who no longer lets emotions pull them away from the path they have chosen. The one with inner strength does not need anyone's validation, because they have already seen the light within themselves. And when you walk with that kind of strength, each step more rooted, each emotion accepted, each boundary consciously redefined, you not only live with greater peace, you become a sanctuary for yourself and for anyone who crosses your path. Are you ready to return to the mountain within you?